Cutest episodes, this is the first of them. After a friendly conversation, Patrick and SpongeBob go off in different directions. Suddenly, they hear chirping coming from a small coral tree and begin to suspect each other that someone is joking, thus the swearing. However, it soon becomes clear that the source of the sounds turns out to be a tiny clam. Taking care of the baby, they decide to become his parents and bring him into the house. SpongeBob offers the mollusk his pants so that he can get comfortable and sleep. They soon notice that the clam is feeling hungry and begin offering him various treats. First a donut, then a crab burger, a small crab burger, crispy fries, and finally a wormy apple. When they offer the apple, the clam instantly stops crying, and SpongeBob guesses that clams actually prefer to eat worms. He immediately feeds it to the clam, and the clam quickly eats it, demanding more. After the clam's hunger is well satisfied, it suddenly begins to cry. Patrick realizes that the baby needs a new diaper, so he hurries to give him one of his own. This decision proves to be successful and the clam calms down. SpongeBob and Patrick, realizing that the clam has no parents, decide to take care of it until it grows up. They are happy to be parents and give him the name Kid. Now SpongeBob becomes mom and Patrick becomes dad. It's very cute. In the scene that follows, we watch a moment in which SpongeBob and Patrick, dressed in their parents' costumes, head outside with baby. Passing residents wonder how a clam could be born from Starfish and SpongeBob. After a cool walk, they return home under the cover of night and put baby to sleep in SpongeBob's bed. Soon they go to bed themselves, tired but happy to have a baby. The next morning, Patrick eats all their breakfast, forgetting all about baby. He tells them it's time to go to work because now he is responsible for the family as a father and says he'll be back to help in the evening. During the whole day, SpongeBob has to do the housework by himself because Patrick is not around. When Patrick finally returns, instead of offering to help SpongeBob, he sits down to watch TV. This goes on for days on end and repeats day after day like endless circles of hell. And at one point, SpongeBob's patience runs out. He screams, trying to explain to Patrick how important it is to share in baby's care while showing him the pile of used diapers that are in every crevice of the house. Patrick also sees a backhoe under the window cleaning up a diaper dump larger than the house. Patrick cries when he finds out how hard it was for SpongeBob alone and promises to come home at 6 o'clock sharp. However, he doesn't actually show up until midnight after the party and meets an angry SpongeBob. SpongeBob reminds him of his broken vow, but Patrick doesn't listen and is about to leave. SpongeBob, feeling resentful, decides to follow him. He soon learns that his friend's job is to watch TV under a rock endlessly. SpongeBob gets annoyed with Patrick again and throws ice cream and donuts from his suitcase at him. An argument breaks out between Patrick and SpongeBob, but then they suddenly notice that the kid is trying to jump out of the window. In a panic, they rush over to him, trying to save their baby, but they thought they didn't catch him in time. With sad faces, they begin to cry, convincing themselves that they were bad parents who failed to protect their baby. But they soon discovered that the baby is not only alive, but healthy. What's more, he surprises them with his amazing ability to fly. Patrick and SpongeBob are shocked as they watch their son soar through the air and realize that the little mollusk has already become independent and grown up. This fills them with different feelings as they realize that they are no longer needed in his life. After the foster parents say goodbye to their son, Patrick, in his characteristic manner, exclaims, "Why don't we get another one?" SpongeBob doesn't seem to like this idea as he realizes that the father of the next kid will also go out for bread.
Like and subscribe.
Next episode, Goo Goo Guess. Mr. Krabs angrily kicks out Plankton, who once again decides to try his luck and disguises himself as Krusty Krabs. As always, his hapless rival hoped that he could trick Mr. Krabs and get his hands on the secret recipe for crab burgers. However, when Mr. Krabs closes the door behind him, he can't shake the disappointment that another attempt has failed. He then finds a secluded spot in the park where he sits on a bench and plunges into thinking about how he can finally become the owner of the recipe. Soon, his attention is caught by a mom with a toddler who tells her son how defenseless and helpless he is, teasing him. These words begin to roll around in Plankton's head, and a brilliant idea comes to him. He decides that the best way to get hold of the coveted formula is to turn Mr. Krabs himself into a child. That way, he can easily take the secret of the recipe away from him. Plankton begins to develop a special gas that can turn Mr. Krabs into a baby. He conjures up images in his mind of how he will pass by the unprotected crabs, playing with him in the sandbox and taking possession of the formula. The next morning, Mr. Krabs, following a shiny trail of coins, approaches a phone booth. Suddenly, he is inside, and just as he has time to realize what is happening, he is sprayed with gas. In an instant, Eugene Krabs is transformed into a defenseless toddler. Meanwhile, SpongeBob, passing by, notices this funny little kid and decides that it would be a sin to leave Mr. Krabs in such a state. He takes him by the hand where he is going to look after his new employee. But not all is smooth sailing for Plankton. He, intending to trick SpongeBob and sneak into the restaurant, fails, ending up in the hands of the police. Plankton tries to escape using his small size, eventually managing to slip out of his handcuffs without any problems. He heads to his hideout, the wash bucket. As always, his trusty partner Karen watches his failures, deciding it's time to take action. Plankton, you should spray SpongeBob, she suggests. He listens to her advice and begins to devise a new plan, immediately producing an entire cylinder of gas that is suitable for the realization of his ingenious plan. With his new weapon, Plankton returns to Krusty Krab to fight SpongeBob and reclaim what is rightfully his. Sheldon decides to take a drastic step and sprays SpongeBob, but at that moment the gas gets on baby crabs. At first, it seems that the experiment will end successfully. Eugene suddenly begins to grow younger again, and SpongeBob shrinks to the size of a baby, funny and defenseless. However, once Sheldon realizes that he failed to save gas, it turns out that the entire supply has been used, and both heroes, instead of the expected reverse aging, remain what they were. The next time, Plankton decides not to back down and develops an entirely new formula for the gas. With the new technology, he infiltrates the restaurant. However, his expectations are not met. The new gas has the opposite effect, and instead of rejuvenating, it makes everyone old. Fortunately, the wisdom and life experience that the old ones have is not available to Plankton, and the old ones realize that the secret formula must not fall into the wrong hands. Krabs and SpongeBob decide to make a cage out of string, and together with the other Bikini Bottom old-timers, they begin to berate Plankton in the cage for calling them old men. After the failed experiment, Sheldon decides to take a different approach. He heads to the store and buys baby powder, confident that it will help him in his devious plans. Mixing the powder with gas, he creates small bombs that explode and turn the residents of Bikini Bottom into little children. Inspired by his creation, Plankton throws the bombs at all the customers and staff of Krusty Krab. Everyone around them becomes toddlers, understanding nothing and not realizing the danger of stealing the secret burger formula. Little Patrick looks especially cute. At this point, Plankton notices that Little Krabs, who has been carefully guarding the secret formula, is playing with it as if it were a toy. Seeing this formula, Plankton begins to feel rich. However, he gets into trouble when he tries to take the formula away from Krabs. He hits Plankton with a glass bottle while playing with it. Soon, in addition to this, Sheldon slips on the kid's drool and falls to the floor, making everyone giggle. But that's not the end of it. To Plankton's horror, the little sponge, thinking it's a toy, starts playing with the cylinder containing the magic gas. The cylinder falls and collapses, the consequence of which is another transformation. Plankton also finds himself among the little ones, and the others who were in the restaurant have the opposite effect. They turn into adults again. Write a comment if you're not Plankton, give it a like, subscribe.